And now, as Honorable Minister Anand Prasad has described her, the beautiful Minister of Education, Honorable Priya Manickchand.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Speaker. I take this opportunity to welcome our young people, the students who are in here. I hope you're seeing both what you want to be and not what you do not want to be right in this house, and that you are going to pattern your own presentations accordingly. It is important, it is important to be able to make arguments that are sensible and practical and constructive and will contribute to the development of your country without becoming ad hominem. For the member who just spoke, that means personal. I want to also congratulate warmly the Minister of Finance and his team, and the President and Vice President who contributed to the crafting of this budget, a budget that is going to see Guyana progress, Guyana develop, and Guyana develop rapidly. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, education, the role of education in a developing country like ours is critical. It equips individuals with knowledge and skills and critical thinking abilities necessary for economic progress and growth. By investing in education, a developing country can empower its citizens to break the cycle of poverty, drive innovation, and contribute to nation building. Education fosters a skilled workforce, promotes social cohesion, and enhances democratic values. It is the key that unlocks the doors of opportunity, paving the way for a brighter future for individuals and the nation as a whole. Any government who understands this, sir, would invest in education, and that is what the PPPC has been doing, and doing consistently. We've heard the vacuous statements about the budget not catering to development. The OECD countries, Mr. Speaker, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, give about 10% of their budget to education. Guyana, on average, Guyana is giving more than 13% in this budget. That is investment in our people. The total expenditure, and we have seen repeatedly how that investment benefits the people of this country. We know that Guyana ranks high on the Human Development Index. That's the UN index that measures the standards of education and health and overall well-being in a country. Guyana is now positioned, and they have said very clearly that we're doing better in education, that we're doing better in health. That investment repeatedly over the years, sir, has moved us from 30% of our children being able to access secondary education in 1992 to 78% when we left office in 2015. And unfortunately, when we came back in 2015, the same 78% because you didn't build a single secondary school in this country. It moved us from about 33% of our teachers being trained in 1992 to now 99% of our teachers trained or in training. Those are the numbers, those are the facts, those are the deliverables. That is how we measure. It moved us, the World Bank said, sir, in 1993, from a 67% of our people living in poverty, that's 67 out of every 100 persons living in dire poverty, to 38% in 2008, half the number of people living in poverty. That's what investment, sensibly done, does. And Mr. Speaker, the honorable member before me spoke of an education sector plan, and I'm very happy she had one to speak of. The only time this country went without an education sector plan that was published from 1993 to 2015 to now is the 5 years that APNU was in office. They did not have a sector plan. This is the government. They said they're the party who could plan and project and measure, and they didn't even have a sector plan. But if the honorable member could have read that in a way that allowed her to understand it, what she would have seen is that the deliverables and the measurables are right there in the sector plan. And I will give you some results, sir. The honorable member spoke about some grade 4, which doesn't exist anymore, and something else, 30-something% in English, all fake, all false, and we'll throw those numbers up just now. But these are results. Arthurville, so let's take primary. Arthurville Primary moved from 36% in 2022 English to 50%. They moved from 50% mathematics to 83%. They moved from 29% science to 50%. And then let's take the hinterland. Shelton, pass rate moved from 22% to 67%. Anai, the pass rate moved from 19% to 58%. Sand Creek, the pass rate moved from 15% to 60%. This is measurable. And when we talk about these numbers, we mean more people, more children passed. More children are going to be able to access opportunities and thrive in this build out that we're building in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, I was curious. I was curious at some of the heckles when the budget was being presented and at some of the talk shows that are happening. And the conversation I'm no longer curious because the honorable member just made it very clear what her party's position is. The APNU AFC holds the view that there is no need to build any secondary school because they have enough. And I wonder what Don Hastings, honorable member, has to say about that, where children in Jawala and Kopinang and the Upper Mazruni do not have a school to go to. I wonder what Mr. Region 9, Henry, honorable member, has to say about that, when Awaranao and Mawaranao and Karasabai and Shia and those kids don't have a secondary school to go to. I wonder what the Region 1 MP, whoever it is over there, what the Region 1 MP has to say when the children of Quibana and Barama River and Waramuri and Hosororo don't have a secondary school to go to. Is that your party's position? When I left office in 2015, we needed 7,000. When I left office in 2015, we needed 7,000 seats for secondary children. That means, my young friends, the children your age don't have a school to go to. That's what we left. When I came back to office in 2020, we needed 7,000 seats because the APNU AFC failed, neglected, and refused to build a single secondary school in this country. Did not start or finish a single secondary school in this country, punishing children like you right here on the coast and in the hinterland regions. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to begin by having access. Apparently the thing is, if you have a fight, you got fights in schools. Apparently that's a new phenomenon. You got fights in schools. You have cameras in schools now. That's the new phenomenon. But the thing is, we have fights in schools. Apparently their solution to that is not to have a school. So if you don't have a school, you can't have a fight. Apparently that's the big fancy solution. Mr. Speaker, in the last 3 years, remember I said I met 7,000, the need for 7,000 seats. In the last 3 years, we have provided 4,575 children of this country, Amerindian, African, East Indian, Chinese, Portuguese, with seats in a secondary school. How could you not support that? How could you have a criticism for that? And how could you stand here and barefacedly tell this nation that you don't think those 7,000 people need seats in a school? That should have you all hanging your heads and resigning today. Today, because you have declared that you have no intention of educating the children who cannot be seen, and your Amerindian and
Honorable
hinterland...
Minister, all those views are directed
They
to
are,
me.
sir. I'm looking at them, but I'm really speaking to you.
Yeah,
You, sir, the honorable member, sir. Mr. Speaker, let's begin. We built the Abrams Zool Secondary School, the Willem Secondary School, Westminster Secondary School, Good Hope Secondary School, Yarracabra Secondary School. We extended the East Rumvelt Secondary School, St. Winifred Secondary School, Queen's College, Bishops, St. Roses. By doing that, we provided 4,575 seats to children who hitherto did not have seats in school. And this year, Mr. Speaker, this year, we're going to be finishing the Hosororo Secondary School, for 700 children, which will take care of the Mabaruma catchment, Hosororo, Wauna, the Reverend schools. 662 children did not have access in this area to secondary education. That's what you found, that's what you left, and you couldn't care less. Because like you said, it's a waste of time. Why we build in schools? In the Northwest Secondary, we're going to finish that school this year. It's going to cater for 850 children. Quebana Secondary, way up Region 1. I'm hearing them, where is Quebana? Of course you don't know where Quebana is, because the people of Quebana are not important to you. 500 children, Maruka Catchment, Quebana, St. Nicholas, Barama Rivers, Winey River School. Region 7, we'll be building a school in Jawala, which will cater for 500 children. That's the Upper Mazaruni. Kako, Jawala, Camarang, Philippi. You have members in this house who are from those villages who should have gotten up when you said that building schools are not important. When the honorable member that spoke to me before, spoke before me, that said building schools are not important and they're not going to solve any problems. They should have gotten up and made their objection known. And by not doing that, the entire APN UAFC has adopted that position. Region 9, we're building Karasabai, that will take care of 500 children. And in Georgetown, we're building the Christchurch Secondary, North Rhymeveld Secondary, St. George's Secondary, St. Mary's Secondary, and extending the St. Stanislaus Secondary. We will also be building a school at Prospect on the East Bank, and begin the building of Christianburg in Region 10. $28.7 billion was allocated towards construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance of school buildings. So, Mr. Speaker, we're unapologetic. Every child in this country, whether you're from primary, secondary, nursery, whether you're from the deep hinterland or the coastland or here in Georgetown, whether you're from an APNU stronghold, if they have any left, or a PPP stronghold, every child in this country will be able to access education under the PPPC government. And I hope we have heard what the APNU position is and what our position is, and we say that without apology. Students, even as we build schools, and we are also building 6 primary schools that are large primary schools, Mr. Speaker. Those are going to be done at Regdorsey in Region 3, Tushen in Region 3, Tapachinga in Region 9, Rizrock in Region 10, Kuradaya in Region 1, Diamond at Second Diamond School, Primary School, because we have extended and expanded our housing program. We have large communities and settlements going up in places, and we now need primary schools also, although the UN has declared us as having attained universal primary education. Even as we build the physical infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, even as we build the physical infrastructure, we're very conscious, very cognizant that like the rest of the world, and particularly us here in the Caribbean, we have to change the quality. It has to improve. We'd like to see our children do better. We'd like to see them learn differently. We'd like to see them leave with more critical thinking skills. What are we doing to change the quality of education? Mr. Speaker, let's begin with the training of teachers. Last year, 1,796 teachers graduated from the Teacher Training College, giving us the largest number of teachers trained ever in the history of Guyana. Hitherto, before that, the number of teachers that could be trained was only 535. We quadrupled that amount, which means you will have a better quality as well as more teachers in the classroom. From 2020 to 2023, 3,198 teachers were trained. Mr. Speaker, particularly in the hinterland where we have the biggest problem with quality. And the problem sprang from the fact, chicken and egg, the problem sprang from the fact that we didn't have trained teachers in the hinterland because the program didn't cater for that. So let me give you what that picture looked like in 2019. In 2019, we had 31, in 2019, to be clear, Honorable Speaker, we had 31 teachers from the hinterland, regions 1, 7, 8, and 9. 31 teachers training. Under the PPPC, we have 1,011 teachers from those same villages training. Trained teachers will go back into the school and make the children do as well as you will do. They will give the children the same quality that our children out here on the coast are getting. So when we speak about wanting better for people, our actions must match our words. You had 31 teachers being trained in the hinterland. We have 1,000 teachers in 1 year being trained in the hinterland. That is love for people. That is love for children. Additionally, the CPC has implemented some new programs. Literacy is going to be implemented. A special major in literacy is going to be implemented in 2024. A special program in special education needs was implemented. HFLE is going to be implemented. Portuguese is going to be a major for the first time. French is going to be a major for the first time. Music is going to be on the ADE, Associate Degree program for the first time. PE is going to be on that an ADE program for the first time. And visual arts is going to be on that program for the first time. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, additionally, let us be clear. The PPP was very clear. We give each teacher who is being trained in the teacher training college a full salary of $90,000. The APNU gave $10,000 to those teachers. We are giving $90,000 to each teacher. And in addition, Mr. Speaker, we heard how badly off teachers were. Here is what teachers are getting under the PPPC. We've trained a number of years where a teacher could now become senior, from 7 years to 6 years. We've added more senior vacancies across all schools so more teachers can become senior. We've reduced the records that teachers are required to keep. We're paying $10,000 for each teacher with a degree. So Ronald Cox, when you finish that gold degree, you can get a $10,000 more. The gold, same program that you all don't want other people to do. 1,796 teachers were trained in 2023. 1,900 will be trained in 2024. 1,500 teachers will be trained in 2025. All senior teachers above 52 are going to get a duty-free concession. All senior teachers above 52 will get a duty-free concession. Increased payment for teachers with a master's degree. Increased payment for teachers with a doctorate. All teachers on the GOLD program will be paid for their new qualifications. Unlimited number of teachers allowed to attend UG. It used to be a very limited number before. 99% of all our teachers are trained or in training. We gave for the first time in the history of this country, we gave teachers money to buy their cardboard and chalk and school supplies that they need. They needed it in 2018 and 2019 too, but you didn't give a cent. We've increased the stipend for trained teachers, and so a trained teacher under the People's Progressive Party, I'd say a St. Margaret's Nursery School, and we have a recently retired head teacher that is from there. Starters Nursery, we're grateful for her years of service. In 2019, was taking home $227,000. In 2023, is taking home $316,000. That is growth, along with all these benefits. And the teachers, we have two heads of departments in here, one from St. Joseph, one from Northwest, or secondary school teachers, if not head of departments. In 2019, was taking home $210,000. In 2023, $289,000, and all these benefits, But Mr. Speaker, don't listen to me. I have a reason to say these things. Let's read from September 4, 2018, the Guyana Times. Teachers got more under the PPP government, the Guyana Teachers Union. And this picture looks remarkably like the speaker who came before me. She's changed her hairstyle, but it looks like her. And it said, the teacher strike continues, and the Guyana Teachers Union has said the nation's educators had received more under the People's Progressive Party than what they currently get under this this coalition administration. GTU General Secretary Coretta MacDonald, who has been at the helm of the leadership of that union, and would have sat in several negotiations with both the previous government and the current administrations, made this statement to teachers on Monday. MacDonald told scores of teachers assembled at the GTU auditorium at Wilfred Avenue that it was under the PPP that teachers for the first time received additional benefits apart from a salary increase. Quite like those I was reading out just now, they received these new ones last year. If we look at what transpired under the PPP government when they were in power and what is transpiring now, and she had to pause because she was gasping at what was transpiring then. Remember, we didn't want the 5%, we made noise about it. But with the 5%, we got a whole lot of non-salary benefits from the glorious People's Progressive Party Civic. She said, to loud applause from the large gathering of teachers. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to lay this over to refresh the memory of the honorable member who now seems to be forgetting what she actually said and what the truth actually is. In addition, Mr. Speaker, in addition to building schools and training teachers, we're going to change quality. Mr. Speaker, we are providing, in this year's budget, we are providing textbooks and exercise books to the tune of $2.9 billion. Over the last 3 years, it's $8 billion that we provided in textbooks to our children. And each child will get all the textbooks they need and exercise books that are of a better quality. But here is what we came from. Here is what we came from. Because when you stand here to speak, you must stand on a record, Mr. Cox, honorable member, through you, of course, sir. In the area of textbooks, and we were talking about Auditor General's reports, here is what the Auditor General said for the period 2017 to 2019. The ministry spent millions to purchase textbooks, yet failed to supply 71% of the population with textbooks that were required by the schools. 71%, it's just quite shameful. Shameful. And we're talking, well, disgraceful, Minister, sir. Yeah. Disgraceful. And Mr. Speaker, it went on to speak about how over $998 million worth of textbooks were to be purchased. I don't think this is the audit report that spoke of when the AP and UAFC bought billions of dollars in the wrong textbooks. Wrong textbooks. And then we must ask where those textbooks went and who got to resell them. Who got to resell them? Well, we talking about friends and family and crony, but I don't get personal. I never get personal, but you go and do that research for yourself. Mr. Speaker, additionally, on the issue of quality, the children these days, this, Mr. Speaker, it is true, Mr. Speaker, that some exercise books had the wrong information. Because we went out to a public bid, not something the honorable member is familiar with, given that they used to hand this out to friends and family, and hand it out to the GNPL, who would then source it to the friends and family of Trinidad. Here are the articles in the Kaieteur News when you did that. We went out to public bids. This is a public advertisement. And when people, the printers, we hope that mistake won't be made this year, but our contract will be changed. When the printers retyped, they got it wrong. And we were upset, but we weren't going to stop giving the books. We asked the teachers to use it as a teaching and learning process and correct what was wrong. This year, our contract will be different, and it's going to say anyone who prints inaccurate information that was not given to them will stand the cost of the repair themselves. So we're not going to duck and hide from this. We given the books you never gave. You never gave the books. Right? And Mr. Speaker, and I also want to point out too, this issue that has been raised repeatedly today about friends and cronies. Every procurement done by the Ministry of Education, and I'm prepared to put my head on the block for this, every procurement done by the Ministry of Education is done in accordance with the procurement laws. These are publicly advertised, people bid, and the NPTAB evaluates. So even if they were to say, and I heard the vacuous, idiotic statement about us burning schools. First of all, the APNU AFC is on record as saying the PPP burned these two schools so they could give their friends this land space. The schools are going up now. The schools are going up now, so they have dropped that one, and they said it's to give people the contracts. These contracts were publicly advertised, and people publicly bid, and they won the contract. Mr. Speaker, we're also helping our parents by increasing our provision to school children for their school feeding, breakfast. Mr. Speaker, this year, this budget allows us to give every single child in the hinterland, nursery, primary, and secondary, a meal, either breakfast or lunch. Every single child in the hinterland will get a meal this year. This budget allows us to give every grade 6 and every grade 5 child a hot meal for breakfast. And this budget allows us to give every grade nursery to grade 2 child fortified biscuits and juice. This is the same population, sir. The same children whose parents had the same jobs. I would like to posit and pose a question to Mr. Henry, honorable member, and Mr. Hastings, honorable member, and their colleagues about whether children in the hinterland weren't hungry in 2018, and what was done during those years, 2019 to feed them, what was done in 2016 to feed them. Now you wake up and you find out that they're hungry, and when we're trying to provide a meal, you want it to be your meal. Well, let me say this. The communities will have a firm say in what meal is provided. So if you come from the coastland and decide that you do not want Amerindian children to eat cassava bread because it doesn't have your nutritional value, I tell you now, we will rubbish that contribution. Mr. Speaker, this budget will allow us to add 42 schools plus 234 schools in grade 5, adding a total of 19,000 additional children who will get meals in the hinterland. Mr. Speaker, we heard earlier about something that I really want to address. And I really don't know how much more disappointed I could get. Any person in Guyana, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, young or old, who wishes to pursue an education should be facilitated as best any government can. Any single person. The PPP's Chetty Jagan started the University of Guyana, and Barry Ramstrand will tell you when he started it, the PNC called it Jagan's Night School. It is now our University of Guyana, and we will fund it and continue to fund it, and it's very precious to us. It is very precious to us. Mr. Speaker, when we left the University of, Mr. Speaker, when we left the country, when we left government, the University of Guyana had, we left fees, it was $160,000. It was $160,000. When the APNU went into office in 2016, Mr. Speaker, it raised by over $70,000. This is an article from the Guyana Times. After increasing tuition fees, UG to now increase fees for services. And it goes on with a lovely picture of the University of Guyana. Less than 1 year after, this is an example of what I was telling you don't do, this kind of market behavior. After less than 1 year after the University of Guyana approved a 35% incremental increase on tuition fees under the APNU AFC, the institution on Wednesday approved increased fees for their services set to be implemented from March 2nd, 2018. 2018 was under the stewardship of the APNU AFC. I will lay that over, sir, and hope that you circulate it to the National Assembly. And then there was another article, sir, UG students bemoan increase to administrative fees, where the students were begging The UG students were begging for relief, and the AP and UAFC was silent. They ignored those pleas, but we now know why. We now know why. Mr. Hamilton this morning told us why. Mr. Speaker, let me say very, very clearly, Coursera is different from GOAL. GOAL is different from the University of Guyana. It's important that we understand what they are. Coursera is a series of short courses offered to the people to upskill or reskill through various hundreds of universities, renowned universities like Harvard and MIT and Princeton and Oxford and Cambridge. Those are the Coursera courses. And when Guyana offered Coursera, in 2020, Mr. Speaker, you know what's painful? The Commonwealth of Learning was begging the AP and UAFC to offer Coursera in 2020. In March, they didn't. Trinidad, Grenada, Antigua, Barbados, they all did. They all did. The AP and UAFC was engaged in the enterprise of trying to stay in government by rigging an election. So they didn't launch it. We launched it in September of 2020. And true to character, so it's a pattern. The AP and UAFC jumped on the program and advised people not to do it when they themselves were doing Coursera programs. They told the nation not to do it. Mr. Speaker, there are public posts with that.
And with that, we need to get an extension for you.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask for the honourable member to have much more time, but I'm forced to, based on the agreement, to ask her if she have 5 more minutes to conclude her excellent presentation. And I know that she could speak for another hour easily.
Mr. Speaker, Guyana recorded, our little Guyana, with our people, recorded the highest enrollment in the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, excepting for India, and on the program, leading Dr. Asha Kanwar, then President of the Commonwealth of Learning, to say, I have never seen something like this, the appetite of Guyanese to study, and a government who facilitates that, and that is on the public record. I would recommend a few courses for you, Mr. Duncan. And then, Mr. Speaker, came the Guyana Online Academy for Learning. And let me say very quickly what that is. The goal is just a medium through which other universities are engaged. So, Ronald Cox is not studying at GOAL, the honorable member. He will tell you. Gather with him when you go outside to eat and ask him. He's not studying at some place named GOAL. He's studying at a renowned university in a foreign country online, and the government of Guyana is paying for that program. So when you say we're paying friends and families, it means we have these 17, 18 universities as friends and families. And if Ronald Cox, you are our friend and family, by the way, I think you should come over here, because they clearly are very envious of you. And there are 1 or 2 members there who don't have what you have, and that might be why they want to take it away from you. A good example is the member who came just before me. And Mr. Speaker, this GOAL scholarship offered so far 21,442 Guyanese people. Black, Indian, Amerindian, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, male, female, from the coastland, from the hinterland, opportunities to study. And they are studying, and they are graduates of the program. And then there is GROW. And I want to talk quickly about GROW. GROW is a program done on the GOAL, which allows people who dropped out from school or didn't get a chance to finish school, perhaps because of your poor management in the 5 years, want now to be able to enter a university. 430 of them graduated from GROW. Of that, 1,172 have begun their degrees. 81% of the people who graduated, who before couldn't even enter university, we've given them the opportunity to go, and they have begun. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say, GOAL is being funded by the PPPC government of Guyana. The University of Guyana is being given $1 billion more than last year, being funded by the PPPC of Guyana. And the PPPC will continue to offer opportunities, whether they be courses or certificates or degrees or masters or PhDs, to as many people that want it, and we will not apologize for that. We will not apologize for it. And Mr. Speaker, lastly, because I know my time is running out, well, second to last, the honorable member, in this year's budget, $28 million is set aside for rehabilitation and maintenance and construction, and that we intend to continue to rehabilitate dorms. But I want to read from this report, sir, the Madhya Commissioner of Inquiry report. Mr. Speaker, this is what the report says. We learned, am I going to get back my time, sir? We learned that in 2015, the then Minister of Education, Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine, commissioned an inquiry to conduct an assessment of the education sector in Guyana. According to the report which was tendered before us entitled Commissioner of Inquiry into the Education Sector of Guyana Preliminary Report, the objective of the inquiry was to establish the baseline analysis of the state of public education in Guyana and to provide recommendations of broad strategic guidelines for the enhancement of public education. The Commission tabled its preliminary report to the Minister on the 28th of April 2017. The whole Cabinet had it. The report placed high emphasis on the deplorable state of student dormitories and made recommendations that they should be addressed. The 2017 APNU-AFT Cabinet got these reports. It stated that attention must be paid to the level and quality of supervision in dorm facilities. However, the CEO told us an audit was conducted into the education sector during the period 2015 to 2020 under the auspices, and the audit made the recommendations that were never implemented. So, Mr. Speaker, we get opportunities ever so often in our professional life, in our personal life, to stand up for the people of this country. We could be opportunistic and prostitute ourselves on the altar of dishonesty, where we think we could get cheap votes, or we could stand up and face some of the hard questions. This Ministry of Education expended 98.9% of its local capital last year, capital budget, and 99% of its recurrent budget, and we're going to be able to expend this year for the betterment of people. But I want one last thing. You see me, sir. You see me in the newspapers because that's the nature of the system. The ministers photographed. What you don't see is the people behind me, some of whom went home 1:30 on New Year's morning. You don't see the professionals who slave in their offices, Mr. Speaker. The PPP was in office, and we never, ever brought into disrepute public officers the way the honorable member before me just did. You can't say you love teachers, and when I promote teachers to the position of leadership in the ministry, of leadership in this country, you come in this National Assembly, exploit your privilege and abuse them. Mr. Speaker, my staff, the very credible, experienced, educated, learned staff at the Ministry of Education, and I will take this program further, will take this program forward so that the children of this country could be the leaders of Guyana and could compete here in the Caribbean and in the world. I thank you all.